My good people, what is going on, man? Clock is ticking. We are in the zone with VNZ. It's your boy Val.
And Zyrus, what's going on? Where we back in the basement today?
Back in the basement. I know y'all missed us a little bit, but it's always good to get back into the flow of things. We thought we'd let the draft settle, see the results, and then kind of dive right into, our instant and our quick reactions. So I know it's been a couple weeks, but Z, how you feeling, man?
I'm good. All is well. All is well.
I know we're going to pull up a couple things as we get going. I'll just say it's been a lot going on for those outside of Buffalo, inside of the West New York area, between the, we call it the Sanders saga, between the Jeremy and Joe morning show, between just... yeah, a lot. The NBA playoffs, right?
Which we're going to touch on, for sure.
Yeah. We got, that's why I say we got a lot of different things we can obviously hit on because it's a lot of different things going on. We got the hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, MLB, NFL draft, and just a bunch of other things going on. But we're going to get right to it because we don't want to hold y'all too long this week. But first off, your instant reaction to draft weekend for you?
For me, it's a reminder of how big football is. The NFL, like, we are really glued to a TV. Just watching players get drafted. Like,
Facts.
I don't think the NBA draft is anywhere close. NHL draft is obviously not even close to that. They don't even draft or show the MLB draft on TV.
Right.
Like, it's just crazy. That's how big of a show.
It's an event.
Yeah, it's just people getting drafted, but like it's edge of your seat television, just watching how things play out, who fell further than expected, who got picked earlier than expected.
Right.
You know, that's not even mentioning Shadeurs Sanders saga that you brought up. Like, so it's just crazy to just see how big the draft has become. You know, it went from way back in the day before we even around used to be 17 rounds all in one day, and then as we were kids, the Saturday marathon from 12 until and then Sunday the last couple rounds, and so what it is now,
for sure. Thursday
night first round, Friday night round 2 and 3, and then Saturday the rest. It's you're glued, you're locked in, especially that first day.
Yeah.
And so for me, anytime we get to draft week, I'm excited just to be able to
take it all in, right?
100%.
Yeah, and I'm with you, and we'll talk about the Bills, our favorite picks from the Bills. But yeah, it's glad to finally get the players. We've been analyzing, or I should say, making our guesses who the Bills gonna pick where. First round, second round, third round. I know they didn't have any third initially.
They ended up went up
fourth round, fifth round. We go through all of the different scenarios. I mean, I think I might have did 5-6 different mock drafts out of boredom. And to see, guess what? Hey, some of those guys we ended up getting, some of those guys we didn't.
And some guys weren't even close to being on the board. I was banging the table for Kenneth Grant for months. We didn't sniff having a shot.
He went number 13 in Miami.
And I'm like, yeah, he might be there at 30. He might have to move up a couple spots, bro. 13. I said, well.
It's almost like the Miami scouts saw him getting kind of selected by the Bills at 30 and said, we're going to make sure he don't go nowhere close to 30.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. It's always remember, you never know what other teams value players too. So even when you have professionals putting these big boards together, a lot of them are good at what they do. So it's not like they have no knowledge, but what is always missing is what the GMs and the scouts for individual teams feel about it.
Right.
So who we think is a reach could not be a reach for a certain team, or who we thought is may have slipped. Maybe there is a medical. Right. Maybe there is a character issue. Maybe there was a pending lawsuit or something
that we don't know about.
Yeah, so it's just always interesting to see how the board plays out.
Yeah, because we went through that a couple times. I mean, we know Max Harrison, he had his own situation, which got touched on a little bit, but I think nothing came from it, any of substance.
Yeah, it looked a bit unfounded. But do you look at someone like Will Johnson, for example, who I think consensus is he is a early-ish day one pick, early first round talent.
Yeah.
But, with the degenerative knee issue, or medical flag, you see how teams play it. So instead of being in the first half of the first round, you fall to a mid-second round pick.
Which was crazy because I honestly thought the the further we got into the first quarter, I'm like, is Will Johnson a possibility? But then I looked at our roster and I said, well, we got two veterans over 28, 29, and Dane Jackson Tre'Davious. Tre'Davious coming off multiple injuries in the last 3 or 4 years. So to me, I kind of thought once we got to pick 26, 27, like, probably not going to go to a guy with an injury pass. I know Siobhan Revelle was one, too.
So that's why, with him having an injury pass, I thought that was the reason they actually would take him. Because I'm like, if they feel they have Dane and Trey, we can ride them for the first half of the season, even the first season. So this is if this is a little bit of a redshirt year, he has the time to start to heal. So I was like, maybe that is something they, would take a run at. But obviously they had other plans. They
did
finally got a different level of athleticism.
Yeah, at the corner position
in that secondary. Because even when we had Poyer and Hyde, they weren't top end athletes from a speed and agility standpoint. Even at the corner position, I mean, Trey is not a top level or an elite athlete.
Right.
Even Benford is not an elite athlete.
Kyer was the closest to that, but then
he
Kyer
had like straight line speed and size. He had some of the intangibles, but he doesn't have that twitchy quick that Maxwell
plus when
has.
he was drafted, there wasn't as many, I would say, scouts that had him as a first round talent with as much upside as they're giving Hairston, because and for those who don't know, we did go through the first round and select Maxwell Hairston at pick number 30 in the first round.
Out of University of Kentucky.
Out of Kentucky, joining his boy Ray Davis, and then later on, obviously, we added Deion Walker, the big D tackle, who we kind of discussed briefly, I think, over the last couple episodes. But him coming out of Kentucky, a smaller school when it comes to football, but it's still the SEC. SEC, you're seeing LSU. You're seeing
Kentucky they've been ranked the last couple of years too, so it's not necessarily Kentucky of old. Like they've been all right.
Right, and this is a guy whose history shows. I mean, he's a playmaking corner with elite speed. I think they said he ran 4.29, 4.30.
Yeah, 4.28.
Yeah, 4.28. Yeah. So we talking super fast.
That's elite speed.
Yeah, great ball skills. Willing tackler. I know they said, well, from a tackling standpoint, he's no Antoine Winfield, if we want to bring it back to the old school Bills.
But he also is not Deion Sanders.
Right.
Who doesn't tackle.
Yeah, he not avoiding.
He shies away from it.
He not like,
he may not be the greatest tackler based on his frame and size, but he attempts to. He's not afraid to try to get his nose.
And that's what you hope for, is if you're drafting a guy at 21, 22 years old, and if it doesn't show up on the tape that he is a great tackler, you just want to flat out ask the guy, are you willing to be better at being a better tackler? Are you willing to pursue?
Like, bro, are you just trash at tackling, or do you not try?
Which one is it? Because a lot of times it's an attitude thing, and sometimes it comes down to coaching. Like, are we going to be able to coach you up to make you become one of the best tackling corners in the league? Because we don't want to lose out on your ability to attack the ball in the air, which I think is his strongest skill set. It's his ability to take the ball away.
Yeah, and I'm happy that they didn't allow his lack of tackling to be something that disqualifies him for this team.
Right, like, nah, we not doing that. Let's go Trey Amos. Because guess what? Trey Amos, who was also on the board, could have been more of their, round 2 option.
Yeah,
like,
and,
you know what?
And the reason why I'm kind of happy it played out this way is there was only one corner off the board so far, outside of Travis Hunter, because again, he's a unicorn. So pure corner so far. The only one that was taken was old boy out of why am I drawing a blank?
I think I know who you're talking about too.
I can't even see his face right now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Either way, there was only one corner off the board, so we actually saw what the Bills or who they valued at the position.
Right.
Because a lot of times it's like, oh, such and such and such and such was off the board, so this was the only option. No, they had their choice between 5, 6 different corners that could have selected. So we know that this is the corner that they wanted.
Right.
So it's nice to see them actually go and pick the one they actually wanted. Yeah. Because they had other options.
And he's an energy fit too, which I liked. You watch how he congratulated all of the other players on draft day. You see the contagious smile. Yeah. You see the fact that his teammates love him too, because I think a lot of times when these college guys go to the next level, sometimes the college teammates or they like, glad he off the team. Nah, his guys were genuinely excited to see him get drafted. And were very hyped. You even heard some of them say like, man, shit, now I gotta be a Bills fan, or now I gotta go to a game in Buffalo. Speaking of, he was also at a game last year. I think he said he saw them play Detroit Lions when we went out there and played. And
from Detroit, so that makes sense.
He from that area, so
saw him take that L.
Yeah, and he got a chance to see Josh Allen. That's one of the things I like that he said too, was like, man, you know what? Now I get a chance to give the best quarterback in the league the ball at any given point in time, because once again, man, this game is all about stopping people, but also taking the ball away. And I think in the last 3-4 years, we kind of gotten away from having guys in the secondary really snatch that ball away. I know Micah Hyde in his prime was great at, creating turnovers, picking the ball up. Yeah, him and Porter together, they were very much so known for, if you throw it in the area, you better watch out.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I like this draft as a whole, is the style of players that they got complements the defense itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even I know a lot of people were, somewhat upset they didn't get a true, like, one tech, a true anchor in the middle.
Right.
But they got a whole bunch of penetrating style defensive tackles.
Yeah.
But that style leads to pressure.
Right.
Those pressure leads to errant throws or rush throws. That's how you get picks. That's how you get fumbles. That's how you get, havoc.
Yeah.
And you add this level of speed on the back end, who's an aggressive corner, to go along with Benford on the other side. Like, that's how you get those interceptions. That's how you get the ball back to Josh. That's how you score more points. So, like, you're getting, this draft really shows how the Bills want their defense to look.
Right.
It's not necessarily a traditional get your big anchor in the middle. It's, nah, bro.
Yeah,
we got these edge compressing defensive ends. We have the penetrating D tackles who just want to muck stuff up in the middle of the field.
Right.
That's going to cause havoc. I may not get the sack right now, but that ball's coming out, and I got my guys on the back end hungry, ready to get the ball. So, like, it's you're able to see what they want this defense to look like.
Yeah, and speaking of those guys up front, kind of connecting with the secondary, out of those next 3 picks in rounds, I'll say 2, 3, 4, with TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, and Deone Walker. Which one was your favorite of the 3?
I'll probably say Landon Jackson was my favorite of the 3. I mean, on my last mock, I had him on there.
Right.
Most mocks, I ended up finding a way
to get him on there. Yeah,
just because
he was sitting right there, standing out.
Stylistically, he's the type of defensive end that I like. Yeah. It's always nice to have the quick twitch, bendy, can really turn the edge and hit the corner from that side. But I love the strong, long arm, powerful, who can, do the speed, the power rush, and can really compress that pocket. Like, I like that style of defensive end personally. So someone who is stylistically close to what Greg Rousseau does on the other side, and even in Joey Bosa. Because, again, he's not a pure, like, speed edge. He's someone who uses that power to get to the quarterback. So someone who's in that mold, in the 3rd round, bless you, who has a high motor, high energy.
Facts.
I love him added to that rotation.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think he's a combination of everybody who they do have, which is funny to me because you talk about Greg Rousseau. I even think AJ Epinesa from a size standpoint, being 6'5". I think Epinesa is 6'5", 265, with Jackson being 6'6", about the same. He gives you the length with the long arms. He gives you that bull rush that he can throw in there. And then I just like the tenacity. I think that this is going to be a defense. If you look at from those 3 picks, Landon Jackson, TJ Sanders, and Deone Walker, one thing that they all have in common is that when you look at the tape, those guys got in the backfield, and they got in the backfield often. And kind of like you said, that's what they want to do. They don't want a Star Latutelay that's just going to give you 1.5 sack at the end of the year and 22 tackles. Yeah. All right, that was cute. It worked for a little bit. And it's nothing against Star. It's nothing against the Pat Williams of the world, the Sam Adams of the world, the Siragusa, rest in peace. But the league is changing. Yeah. You got to get guys at those D tackle positions who can not only stop the run, but can push that pocket, and not only push the pocket, but also bring a guy down. And that's one thing that, I'll turn it over to Deone Walker that I saw. I know he had the injury last year, so that kind of prevented him having as great as tape as he had the year before, because you saw him playing with a stiff back. He looked like a 6'7" guy playing with a stiff back. The year before that, you saw him do more damage, but if they can get him coached up the right way, there's a lot that you can put in that body.
Yeah, 100%. Because we talked about Deone Walker a little bit a few weeks ago, and he wasn't someone that I was in love with because his pad level was always so high. So, like, you saw times when he would be blown off the ball just because, again, football, low man wins. Yeah. So, as a 6'7" person, it's even more important to keep that pad level low, and he didn't really do that. So there were times when he would get blown off the ball, and now a lane is wide open. So that's why it wasn't my huge pick or my first pick. However, someone of that size, if they can get him physically right, and get his technique tweaked a little bit just so he can play with that lower pad level. He's someone that has moving skills of someone much smaller than his size.
He can move.
You know, so in NFL, there's not one way to do anything. Yeah. Some teams are great having that big guy in the middle, two gap, so they're anchored down. They can cover the A gap, they can cover the B gap. Right. They're there, but with this style of defense, now it's showing me that the Bills don't want that. Right. They want the penetrating style of defensive tackle. Sanders fits that perfectly. Even Deion Walker fits that perfectly to go along with Ed Oliver, who's a penetrating 3-tech. Even Dwayne Carter, he can play the 3. Yeah. Probably they said he can play the 1. I don't necessarily think
I don't know.
That's a skill set, but another penetrating D tackle. Ogunjobi is another penetrating D tackle. So like it's apparent now that this is what they want stylistically. Yep. And they fit players. They have players that fit what they want. So
and they're not finesse guys either. And that's why
Sanders is nasty with his hands, like violent hands. A downright disrespectful level of hand power. Yeah. And if he can translate that to the NFL level, like he's gonna be someone that wreaks havoc.
Because I'm imagining a lineup, just to throw different ones out there is, you got Bosa on the field with Greg Rousseau next to T.J. Sanders and Ed Oliver. You're going to create some pressure, some heat with those guys. And then when you bring those guys out, to be able to have another rotation of defenders who can also get pressure, whether it's A.J. Epinesa and Dwayne Carter mixed in with this guy, Deion Walker, and Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson, I know I told him he looked like Patrick Mahomes twins a little bit, just a little bit. He looks like he going to be ready day one. I don't know about you. Like, I feel like he's going to be a guy that's probably going to be a part of the rotation week 1. And I would not be surprised if he pushes one of our edge guys off the roster come late August, because there's always 1 or 2 veterans that become on the bubble that sometimes get thrown off because a rookie has such a good camp. So Landon Jackson and even Deion Walker has a chance, if they can get him right, to push one of those veterans off the team. I know Daquan Jones, I think they said they would save about $5.1 million if they cut him after June 1st, or I forgot how that all works, but just something to keep an eye on, because it's definitely showing that they want to get younger, they want to get more athletic, they want to get to the quarterback, and they want to get in the backfield more than anything. Whether it's to the quarterback or dropping a running back for a loss of 4, they want to get penetration, pause.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big battle at defensive end and defensive tackle at this point now, too. Because now at DN, and I'll go to D tackle in a second, but now you're rolling out Rousseau. Yep. You're rolling out Joey Bosa. Yep. You're rolling out Epinesa. Yep. You're rolling out Landon Jackson. Yep. After 6 weeks, you got Michael Hoyt.
You got Javon
Solomon. So like you have waves of rushers now, and A.J. Epinesa is someone now that these rookies can show up. Yeah. Like, is he now expendable?
Or a trade option?
It's going to have to be a trade, because that's the only way you save some money. But is he someone that they can now move for an asset? Because you have guys behind him who is now able to, kind of fill that role.
Because it's like, hey, thank you, AJ, for your time. But
you did your thing while you were here, but we got these YNs.
Yep.
That's ready to show us. That's ready to show up.
Ready
and show out. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think, again, this is a big if, because they've taken swings at defensive ends plenty of times before. But if this lineup can actually show up, this is finally the type of level.
This looks like their best group. Yeah, they best group of rookie D linemen. Like I said, they haven't hit the field yet in a Bills uniform, so this is all.
Yeah, but I think when you combine that to what's available in the middle of the defense as well, because now you actually have more penetrating threats other than that element. Right. It's not just Ed and then someone up there taking space.
Dwayne Jones, whether he was healthy or not, he didn't do the job last year.
Yeah.
Dwayne Carter got hurt. Yeah,
Daquan Jones has not returned to the level he was playing at before he got
2 years ago, right.
So if he can return to a semblance of that, then
cool.
Yeah, but he's not going to be here more than 1 year anyway.
Nah. So that's why I'm like, listen, he not going
to get cut, though.
So
I don't think he's a threat of getting cut. However, he is a threat to had them numbers.
And just so y'all know, we did have my man C Hill in the background. He got a blast, but good to see him here taking a couple flicks, and he in the town. So if you see what happened?
Oh no, nothing.
Oh, but yeah. So see, you ain't gotta lock the door, but appreciate you on stopping by, man.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you.
All right. But yeah, moving on to I guess I'll touch on the secondary a little bit more just because we did have two more corners picked. Jordan Hancock out of Ohio State and then Dorian Strong. I think the biggest one I want to hit on was the Dorian Strong pick just because he was on a lot of people's board day 2. He was a 2nd to 3rd round pick grade for most of the mock drafts that I saw before, because I remember I contemplated grabbing him a couple times when we went through the mock draft process. But nice size for a corner, from what I've heard, and like I said, I didn't watch a lot of Virginia Tech football games, but they say he's a very good to solid man-to-man corner, press corner, with great length, great ability to kind of just get in your face at the line of scrimmage. So with that being said, what are you thinking about as far as possibilities for the secondary going into this season?
Yeah, I mean, this is another position that's just going to be full of competition. I'm curious if they intended on walking out with 3 corners in the draft,
right,
or if they just saw Dorian Strong still on the board, like, oh,
yeah,
he's still here. We got to grab him, just based on just based on their board,
right.
But Brandon Beane said Hancock is more of a slot or safety, so maybe not your traditional outside receiver or cornerback. Sorry,
yeah.
But Dorian Strong is someone going to be in the mix on the outside. But now, what does that corner room look like? Because Benford is a lock. Yeah. We know Taron Johnson is a lock. We know Maxwell Harrison is a lock. Right. So you already got 3 corners, signed, sealed, delivered. Yeah. They usually don't have more than 5 or 6.
Yeah, so that means Trey White, Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram, Dorian Strong. They probably are fighting for 2 spots. Yeah, that's my opinion. Like,
yeah, I think they'll probably carry. I think they'll carry 6.
They'll probably carry 6. So we can.
But again, that's 3 spots already locked up.
Yeah.
You have Jordan Hancock. I mean, who's a corner, who's not a corner.
Right. So, corner / safety.
Yeah, but if he's in the equation, Bills usually aren't cutting 4th round.
Right.
Picks.
I think it's him versus Cam Lewis. And if he don't make the team, then he'll probably just be on the practice squad.
Yeah. So I mean, Cam Lewis is definitely on notice. Jamarcus Ingram, Dane Jackson.
Yep.
I think Trey's
a semi-lock. Yeah, he got a little leverage with the
he does. But at the end of the day, if Maxwell Harrison is ready to go week 1, is Trey just an inactive guy? Because I mean, Trey not playing no special teams unless my man all of a sudden become a special teams player.
I think the biggest thing that may keep Trey on the team is just they love to at CB2 rotate if they don't feel 100% with the guy that they got out there.
I think he has value on the team. It's just on days if Maxwell Harrison is starting, what is Trey doing?
What is he doing?
Just grabbing a jersey and chilling.
Yeah, you got to do something.
That third corner needs to be able to play some special teams and do something.
And I think Trey, he got to be, after the season or 2 that he's went through, he got to be able to have some type of humbleness to his situation and realize, like, listen, dog, it may be you being at special teams / CB 2.5 to make the team. Because really, yes, if Maxwell Harrison balls out in training camp, which I believe he will, and balls out in preseason and is as advertised, then guess what, Trey White, you got to prove that you need to be on the team. Yeah. But definitely the 2 guys I'll watch for, Dane Jackson and Jamarcus Ingram. Yeah. Those 2 are probably fighting for the same spot.
And Jamarcus Ingram was probably our best special teams player, most consistent special teams
and that's why I'm giving
player,
a slight edge to Jamarcus, just because they know in a pinch they can throw him in any special teams unit and he going to put his head down and do what he got to do.
Yeah, Dane Jackson has minimal guaranteed money.
Yeah.
So, like, you cut him, it's nothing on the books, really. So, it's, I
like the room, though.
Yeah, he's the one that's going to be, after this draft, he's the one that's solidly on notice.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's going to have to show up and show out.
Yeah. Because he was just insurance as well. And then they went ahead and got Trey White. Then they obviously went 3 corners in the draft. So, like, for Dane, he really got to be like, shit, I damn near got to breed out Trey White and fucking Jamarcus Ingram if I want to stick around, which, hey, we've seen shit happen. So it's not like it's impossible. But definitely like the room now. I like the room a lot better than I did a week ago. The safety room, to me, still, I'll have to see come July how I feel about it, because I always tell people, never judge a football team off of what they look like in April and May. Yeah. We'll get into the wide receiver discussion here in a second, but like, never judge the Bills off of their lineup April 29th.
I gotta feel. I think they really like Derek Forrest.
I think they like both. I think they like him as an option, but I think they really like Cole Bishop.
I mean, this whole safety room is them betting that
Cole Bishop takes that
is
step.
going to be ready
Yep.
to assume that role.
And people got to deal with that. Like I don't, and it's not like I hear
Because you don't
too
draft
many.
somebody in the second round and not try to give them the reins.
Facts.
It's one thing to not roll it out for him year one, but year two, no, you got to be ready to assume that position. So I mean, I think they're definitely betting on Cole Bishop being ready to take the reins and kind of take it and run.
And I'm ready too, because I mean, coming out of college, I was a fan of his game. I mean, I watched Cooper DeJean, and there was a couple other safeties I liked from last year, but like, he was one of those guys in the draft last year where I'm like, if we go safety, okay, I can take a Cole Bishop.
Man, a whole lot of mocks I did, I was like, Cole Bishop.
Yeah. So he just got to prove himself,
yeah.
and I think
Come on,
last
Cole.
year, guess what? Playing in the AFC Championship game, you got some exposure. Playing in some of those big games that we played in on the road, you got exposure. And guess what? Sometimes you got exposed, but at the same token, how many safeties in year one is coming off rip just ready?
Yeah.
It's tough.
And he provides a level of athleticism that no one else does at that back end. Because, right, I mean, Taylor Rapp is not an elite athlete. DeMar Hamlin is not. Like, he's the only one that really has high-end athleticism on this roster.
Yeah, that's why I'm really looking forward to seeing a guy from Washington see him out there. Because, I mean, from what I've heard, he's a downhill, physical type of safety. And if you can mix him in there with whatever Cole Bishop can give us, and I know they got all the faith in the world in Taylor Rapp too, but let's say Taylor Rapp gets one more injury. It might be time to be like...
I mean, he's only under contract for another year, too. So, like, the way he... I won't say headhunter, but... Yeah, he kind of... The way he come in hot.
He a little reckless.
So, there's times when he can take himself out the game, just the way he plays the games. He plays with no, what's they say, reckless abandonment. That's what Taylor Rapp
something
is,
like that.
which... Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just, sometimes you're going to come off the field just based on how you play. So they need to make sure that they're ready to deal with those things in the event that something comes up.
And that's why I can see them possibly before training camp adding one more veteran to compete there.
Because right now, after, UDFAs, the roster's at 88.
Right.
So you still have 2 more spots. And again, there could be more.
Yep.
I mean, someone can obviously be cut or dropped or whatever it may be.
Facts.
But right now, you got 2 open roster spots. So there is still going to be more moves that are going to be made on this team. And, safety could easily be a spot where something's done. I mean, they didn't do anything at all this offseason at linebacker. Like, not a single pickup, not a... This linebacker room is literally exactly the same as last year. No changes at all.
And that gives me a couple things to look at. Is like, will they... obviously wait until once again after preseason training camp.
I think they trust that room.
I think they do too. I think they are very high on Dorian Williams. I think they are.
I think they're comfortable with that room.
I think they're okay with having Joe on special teams with what's the other guy name?
They have a certain level.
Ulafosio, yeah, whatever.
Edifwan.
My man right there, yeah.
Ule.
Yeah, all that. Real quick though, I did want to touch on this before we get on Shadeurs and try to get these people out of here. The radio station, guys, we know WGR 550 for those who don't know.
Oh, man, you would have put some respect on Jackson Hall's name first.
Oh yeah, my fault.
Man, we got 2 whole draft picks we didn't even touch on yet.
You right, Jackson Hall's.
Yeah, tight end. So I like this selection because we had a hole at tight end 3. Yeah, tight end 3.
Yep.
And he consensus best blocking tight end in the draft, which is a perfect role for what we needed. I mean, we had which we believe is a high-end receiving threat in Dalton Kincaid.
Right.
We had Dawson Knox, who's a bit of a do-everything tight end, but a very good blocker and a decent receiving threat.
Right.
But then only other tight end on the roster is Zach Davison, who's been in the league 5 years and hasn't really had the opportunity to step on the field and is known as a receiving threat with minimal blocking skills. So you add in the Jackson Hawes, who is Lee Smith personified.
Right.
And that, in my opinion, solidifies that tight end room. I think it gives them the ability to be a little bit creative. They did a lot of jumbo stuff with the six O-linemen. Right. But if you have Jackson Hawes out there, he can even serve at some of that and still give you something from the receiving ability at the same time. So, I think he can be a versatile part of that, and is someone that's probably going to play on all 4 phases of special teams, too. So, I definitely like that pick in the middle of the draft. So I did just want to make sure I touch on that.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, I thought, I saw his name once again pop up on a couple mocks, early day 3. And kind of like what you just said, I mean, anytime you can add in, because I thought tight end was one of those sneaky positions they would add towards the back end like they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime you can try to solidify that third spot, whether it's an all-out blocking guy or it's a guy who can do a little bit of both, just adding extra youth at that position too never hurts anybody too, because I always say, like, the Bills have always been known to throw in an extra veteran there that's like 32-year-old tight end that can block or something like that, like you said, Lee Smith or someone of that nature. But to have a young dude juiced up, coming in, he gonna feel like he got something to prove, so he's gonna come in high energy.
Yeah, he's a little bit of an older prospect. I mean, he played 6 years of college football.
Yeah,
but again, this is someone who I think fits the third tight end role to a T.
Yeah.
So I was happy to get that. Again, another cost control contract, nothing
for the
major at all
from
a cost standpoint. So perfect for me. But in the last pick of the draft, they did, touch on a receiver, Caden Prather. So
wild card.
Yeah, we don't know. We'll see.
Wild card.
Yeah,
again, we've been on that route before.
Someone you throw into the receiver 5 fray,
the Shadeurs,
see if he has anything. Yeah, someone's gonna be competing with Shadeurs,
Virgil,
Virgil, KJ Hamler still floating around. So you throw him into the mix. And
number 6, number 7 spot, because you never know.
See if something shakes out with him. But he's someone you're gonna throw into the mix.
Good size. I mean, 6'3". I think they said he ran a 4.39 or 4.38.
Decent speed, decent size. Didn't necessarily play to that size.
Yeah,
but again,
you got to swing once, and they swung late because and we'll touch on it right now. Like, they didn't feel. I felt coming into the draft like wide receiver was a need, right? So anytime you're going into the draft and you don't feel like a particular position is a need, or you feel like you have to, well, this draft isn't deep enough, so let me reach and get one in round 2 or round 3. Brandon Beane, as most know, he was pretty blunt about where he felt this team needed help the most.
Pretty blunt, is an understatement.
Yeah, pretty blunt. He used a couple B words in there.
Man came out there like Tupac gonna hit him up.
Yeah, he played the music, man.
I said, oh, I'm listening to the radio. I'm like, hang off rip, Brandon. That's
off rip. You got itching and complaining.
He said, yeah, all that. Yeah, hi, hey, what up? Yeah,
straight to the point.
I heard that shit you was saying on the radio, dog.
Yeah, all that shit. Now I ain't flying.
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
Sorry.
I don't like that funny stuff.
Sorry, I ain't
like
going
people
for
playing
it.
on my phone.
And they were like, wait, hold on. What do you mean?
Taking it.
All that. I'm like, oof.
Yeah, but I mean, I got a good laugh out of it.
Oh, yeah. I got a good laugh too. Because I was at work, but at the time that it finally flipped around, went viral, I started going through my phone. I listened to it at work with my guy, and I'm just like, man, every once in a while you need to sometimes like let people hear how you really feel. Because I think that, once again, I know the higher up you go, you're supposed to be so cordial, so professional all the time. But every once in a while, especially when you're speaking to the media, like radio show hosts, they going to say what they want to say. Fans going to say what they want to say. But sometimes you got to let your frustrations out. And I think he kind of held that in. He probably have been hearing about it maybe for the last 12 months. Since,
they probably took the wrath of a lot of other people.
Right. And
all that venom wasn't just for
them. It just wasn't a Jeremy and Joe thing.
Yeah, they caught the strays. They caught the strays.
But Jeremy has also been very vocal about being part of wide receiver train and making sure that we go up and get somebody and making sure, during the season, we know Jeremy is critical of like, why aren't we doing this at wide receiver? Or we should have did this. We should have addressed that. And guess what? When you're going to be the head of the wide receiver train, guess what? You're going to catch some of that smoke that come with the wide receiver train too, because you do have to acknowledge that this was an offense that averaged 30 points a game. You do have to acknowledge that over the course of the last 5 years, maybe only one other team has scored more points in the National Football League than the Buffalo Bills. That does not mean that you just rest your hands up behind your head and just kick your feet up. But I think Brandon Beane is like, we also have bigger fish to fry as well. Like, we have to still become a complete team. And to become a complete team, you got to be able to look at all phases of your team and say, where can I make sure we are extremely good, or at least as good as the other side of football? And I think last year he came away like, listen, I thought we were pretty good on offense. Let's make sure we're pretty damn good on defense. Let's make sure we're pretty damn good on special teams, because last year, defense and the special teams failed them in crucial times. I don't think it was the offense. I think, yes, Having a wide receiver outside of Mac Hollins would have helped. Having Amari Cooper be able to do more than just give us 22 catches or whatever he gave us would have been great. But I think if you look at everything and what they were trying to do offensively, they did their part. You know, James Cook gave us 16, 17, 18 touchdowns over the course of 4 months. Josh Allen won MVP. All right, Keon Coleman, before going injured, was on his way to 900 yards receiving, 1,000 yards receiving. So, like, to sit there after a draft and get on the radio, and even if it was just for 20 minutes, to talk wide receiver, why we didn't do this, why we waited to round 7, you know, after a while, that is going to get to the person who is deemed the man in charge, especially when it comes to scouting, Brandon Beane, because we give him all the credit. I think most Bills fans love Brandon Beane. I think we always use the form of words of trust the process and Beane we trust. But there is a certain portion of fans and radio show hosts who do feel like this whole wide receiver issue has to be fully addressed. And I just want to say, I came away from it like, thank you, Beane, for letting that all out. And guess what? Yes, guys, you guys aren't in the front office. You guys aren't in his position. So stop whining and bitching, as he said, trying to tell him how to do his job. If he finds a wide receiver out there on the market that they can add, great. I love the fact that the same day that happened, Elijah Moore just happened to be in the building. So it wasn't like the Bills were like, you know what, we're satisfied. We got our 4 or 5 guys, let's roll. They're going to always keep looking. They're going to stay attacking. How can they become a better team? But it's not just about one position. So that's all I had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel a lot of it the same. Like, the receiving room is not perfect. But, you know, I think a lot of what Beane has done over the years is try to focus on the full team develop as opposed to just
one position, one player.
I mean, you look at like Houston's draft, for example. They drafted a couple receivers early, and which is good. It's nice because you're taking swings at a very important position. However, there's also other needs that went unaddressed. Right. So, coming to this season, I don't think a receiver one was the biggest need for the Bills right now. Right. There's definitely a speed element that is not in the room, but I don't feel like that need was bigger than the need for a corner. Right. Because your QB2 or your cornerback 2 was vacant. Right. I mean, you had a pretty sizable hole at defensive tackle, and I thought defensive end was a bigger need. Right. So if I'm not drafting a receiver in those first, 3 rounds or so, if I draft someone in the 4th or 5th round, are they even in that? Like, are they
cracking that top 4?
Yeah. Are they even changing the dynamic of the room dramatically? Right. So, I felt like, yes, there is a need for a certain niche in the room. Right. But was it one where did it warrant the level of conversation that it was getting, specifically on the radio? No, because I tuned in Monday morning, and the whole first segment we talking about receiver. We not even talking about.
That's what I'm saying. I turned it up. I'm like,
towards the end of the first segment, they talked about the draft.
Yeah, but
the first segment was all about receiver, and I'm just like,
what am I listening to?
Right, like there was 9 players drafted. Like, can we talk about
Max,
the drafted
TJ,
players? Yeah, and I'm like, yes, it would have been nice. Everybody wants a receiver. Yeah, it'd have been nice if it worked out, but it didn't. Can we talk about what's here? And so, you hear it, and again, I'd have been taking it back too. My man get on there and just start saying,
you guys,
I'd have been taking it back too. Whoa. Even since then, like, I turned it on today and we still talking about it. I'm like, yo, let's let it go. Like,
it's content for them.
Enough with the snarky responses. Like, it's like, it's like,
you want us to feel bad, and then you want the fans to kind of call and have your back.
Yeah, and then naturally, all the WGR people had each other's backs, which they should. But I'm just like,
all right, let's turn the page.
Yeah, like,
all right, you got yelled at.
This was days ago, and we're still talking about receiver. And someone were like, well, it's chef's kiss that Elijah Moore is in the building right after he said that. I'm like, that doesn't necessarily
it doesn't
work in your favor, because he never said the room was set. He never said this receiving group is perfect. He just stated, we scored a lot of points
multiple ways to skin a cat.
This team, this room is not barren. Like, there is talent still in the room. So, like, relax.
And he said multiple times, and not just this week, he's always said they
I've
will
always
always
looked to make the room
So
better.
so
make my
Elijah
team
Moore
better.
being in the building doesn't change anything because that's a part of that same phrase. We
And
will
that was set
always
up
look.
before the conversation even
Right,
happened.
I
It
know.
ain't like
It
he just got off
happened.
was like, oh, let me call
Let me
Elijah
call-
Moore
yo,
see if he
Elijah, you
available.
come in? Yeah. No.
Like that was already in the works ahead of time.
But
it's
that's
just,
how Beane has operated, though, and that's why I said, like, for as much love as Beane get, I feel like a lot of times it's misplaced anger, right? Because you want to see the type of team you want.
Yeah.
So just because the team don't look like the way you want, and that's why I'm glad Beane threw in the whole fantasy football type of analogy, because it's like, yeah, y'all want fucking Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, and you want Wes Welker in the slot, and you think that's gonna win a Super Bowl. When in all actuality, if Pat get the ball, and Pat get the ball with 13 seconds, do you still got enough defenders that can stop him?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, you can score 40, but what if Pat get 41?
Right.
And no time is left on the clock.
Yeah.
I got to get me some defenders that's going to be able to stop that. One of the things that's made Kansas City successful too, that doesn't get talked about enough, is that under Spags, they always got a couple defenders who can make some plays when they need to. Whether it's Chris Jones pressure, whether it's McDuffie back there, they got guys who in a pinch can make a play or two.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's just one play.
Yeah, part of the thing that always frustrates me a little bit is, you know, people say, well, the Bills had the ball with a chance to win and no one can get open. And I'm like, yes.
They sent the fucking blitz. First off, who's getting open in 0.8 seconds?
And even with the best players in the world, sometimes they just don't get open. And sometimes players on the other side just do a better job of playing that play.
Right.
And sometimes it's not necessarily a lack of talent. It's not a lack of... Sometimes the other team makes a play.
Right.
And there's been plenty of times when the Bills have been the ones to make the play when it counted.
I do want...
Baltimore had a better team last year.
They did.
But Bills made the plays in the moment.
And to win that game.
Sometimes it's not about the lack of skill or lack of speed in the room. Yeah, it'd have been nice if we had a Jamar Chase or someone who can be the best route runner in the league. Like, yes, those things would be nice. But again, this team can still function without it. And there is still time to improve the room. And harping on what wasn't done
or what we don't have isn't going to change anything.
And highlighting that over the whole entire draft, I think, is a part that made Beane annoying.
Bro,
we just made all these picks and did all this to improve the team as a whole, and y'all still harping on
that one position.
Yeah.
When there's literally many other positions on the team. Great. So good job by Beane. Like I said, he said something that...
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of wilding with the bitching a little bit. He came in a little hot on live radio.
However, that's how sometimes you got to get your point across the way you need to. And he like, listen, I ain't in front of my daughter. I ain't in front of my kids. So I'm going to shoot it to y'all straight so y'all get my point. And I think that's the part I took from him most was like, let me call into this place because I was already scheduled to talk. Let me get my point across real quick to y'all. And let me make it clear that this is how I feel. Hate it or love it. I'm the GM. Boom, drops mic. And I think he did that perfectly because, once again, we always think when you get in a certain position that you can't be authentic. You can't be real. Guys, that's probably being authentic self. Like when he behind closed doors or when he with his peoples, he probably get authentic like that. How you think that he continues to get on Pat McAfee? Because probably behind closed doors, being like, throw a couple B words, F words in there and get crazy sometimes and have a couple drinks and unbutton his shirt a little bit.
There was a lot of pearl clutching.
Yeah.
That took place. That I can't believe a GM would say this stuff.
It'd be like that.
A little bit unprofessional. I'm like, listen, man, it is what it is. This is a bunch of grown men
having a conversation.
So I don't know. It was just an annoying couple days on the radio.
Because it's like we're supposed to be celebrating how we improve this team. Because I really feel like at the end of the day, the same people who complain on the radio, they're going to be loving the way this defense look come September. Because when we got to bring Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City in Orchard Park, and our defense has one of those dominant performances, I'm going to be dialed in at 6:05 to hear what y'all got to say when they hold them to under 20 points.
Yeah, because as a whole, it was last year, more often than not, it was the defense that was letting us down.
Yeah, it was.
Again, you're putting up 30-plus points in games and losing still. That happened.
Yeah. LA Rams.
29 in the playoffs. They didn't quite hit 30. But the Rams, I mean, almost the
Detroit was
right there.
Yeah.
So, like, it's sometimes you got to identify your biggest areas of weakness, and they determined that, and it was on defense this year. And they doubled down throughout the entire draft and said, look, this is where our biggest holes are. These are the picks that are going to address that. And that's what they did. We can find a speed guy.
Oh, yeah.
And post-draft.
Right.
We can bring in an Elijah Moore. We can bring in a Nelson Aguilar. We can bring speed in somewhere. So just because we didn't get someone in the draft does not mean we don't prioritize the position. And just because we don't do first-round pick after first-round pick at receiver doesn't mean we don't prioritize the position.
Right.
It just means there's other parts of the team that we're addressing as well. So, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll close that one out.
And another thing I'll say is that you say you don't prioritize the position, but then also don't acknowledge that you put a second-round pick in there last year. You sent a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs. You drafted Gabe Davis. Like it's not like they've done nothing. You signed Emmanuel Sanders. Like you have put swings at this position.
Yeah.
So
going all the way back 6 years ago with John Brown and Cole Beasley.
Yeah, so it's acting like they haven't done anything towards that. Which I mean, shit, they traded for Kelvin Benjamin when they realized, oh, we actually had a little something here. Look at Kelvin Benjamin
He's
here.
always swung. So and that's the thing. Like this is a guy who has swung.
Yeah, and then going into last season, realizing, okay, maybe the room isn't what we wanted it to be.
Cooper.
Let's throw Amari Cooper into the fray. So, like, in my opinion, that is prioritizing the position. Yep. So we thought the room was set. We realized maybe it's not. And let's bring in reinforcements.
Let's make some shit.
In my head, that's not a bad thing. That's identifying an area of weakness, prioritizing that position, and doing something about it. So, I mean,
everybody just wants stuff to happen on their time, and it don't work like that.
Yeah, everybody wants the player they fall in love pre-draft. And
and Kansas City got this guy. Oh, well, guess what? We got enough corners where we can lock down all them boys anyway. So what's up?
You traded with Kansas City, and they got Xavier Worthy, the player, and yada yada yada. Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
I guess I'm the type. I don't care what other people are doing. Yeah. Well, you should care. No, I don't. I'm here to make the best team for me. If someone gets such, I don't care what they do. I'm here to come with the best version of myself. I don't. Maybe that's just how I'm built. I'm not worried about my competition.
Right.
I don't care. I'm making sure I'm in the best position I can to win. And that's me in life. Like, this is not even a football conversation. Me as a real estate agent, I don't care what other people are doing.
Yeah, you gotta focus on.
I'm making sure I'm doing what I have to do to make sure I put my best foot forward as an agent and I get my stuff out there. I don't care what my competition is doing.
Right.
So the fact that they traded with Kansas City don't bother me in the slightest. I don't care what other teams are doing. Bro, I'm out here trying to do me.
We did that trade, and what did that trade do? Gave them 3 points more than us in the AFC Championship game, and they ended up losing, getting smacked in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they got him a good player. I don't care. Yeah. We only got Dwayne Carter. I don't care. Yeah, at the time, they felt that was the best move for us to make, so make it.
And now you fast forward to this year, and we're going to see where we go. And that's why I'm excited, too, because, like, after all the BS, at the end of the day, come July, come June, these guys going to put their pads on, they're going to put their helmets on, and they're going to be clamoring to interview these guys and break down who's going to have a bigger impact. But since we 48 minutes in, I did want to lastly touch on, well, first off, let me say go Knicks. Knicks, please, by the time we record again, close this series out.
Man, I was so tight I said, bro, what do we... Listen, first of all, I'm normally not the type to complain about refs and nothing. They are reffing these games so inconsistent.
Too inconsistent.
I'm like, yo... Either call us up or not call us up. Right. The back and forth, I'm like, bro, y'all killing me right now.
Yeah,
tag. If this is another year where the Knicks can't stay healthy, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson, I don't know what kind of ankles the man need, but I'll give him mine.
Listen.
I haven't had an ankle injury in my life.
Double up ankle braces or something. I don't know what it's going to take.
I don't know.
But they should have closed that out.
Yeah, last night was a night. Yeah, because it got to the last 5 minutes. For those who don't know, we're talking about, because this will come out maybe after they close out the series, but we're talking about Game 5. But Game 5, they had them where they needed to in the fourth quarter, and all they needed was probably a healthy Jalen Brunson those last 3 minutes, because he is the closer. Yeah. And not having him on the field for 2.5 minutes on the court.
And hurt.
Too.
At the same time.
Yeah, he
hurt
his
hurt
back.
off, and then you have Brunson off.
And you got Cameron Payne, love him to death, but you got him running a 3-minute offense. That's not ideal. But anyway, go Knicks and close out, please. So by the time we record, we can talk about New York and Boston.
But that ain't nothing compared to what Milwaukee did. Man. I'm watching. I said, I know they didn't just lose.
Big collapse.
You up 7 with 30 seconds.
And they collapsed.
I said, how do you lose that game?
Yeah. I don't really like Indy, and we know about Halliburton and his dad and all of that. That was a whole... Anyway, I know. We can have a whole separate convo about that, because that was...
They killing me. Miami Heat, trash.
Trash.
Um,
Go get Giannis in the summer if you can.
Houston, trash.
Yeah.
I mean, that series ain't over yet.
Yeah, LA got to figure it out.
They right there.
Because the way Minnesota playing with Anthony Edwards and
it's wilding.
Yeah, and he's the next.
Yeah,
Next one, as long as he keep his head level.
Problem is, Lakers they missing a big man.
They don't got one.
Exactly. That's what's lacking right now. And
yeah, they ain't got enough in that front court. Yeah, front court not. Yeah. You let Anthony Davis go for Luka, which cool, I get it. You get your man Luka in there, but Luka can't guard nobody down low. Luka can't get nobody off the boards. And LeBron too old to be trying to do everything.
Yeah, he can't do it every game. They need a secondary scorer.
Yeah.
Preferably at the guard position. I mean, Reeves is cool. He's fine, but I would love Reeves coming off the bench.
Yeah.
I still don't think he's that guy.
Starting shooting guard. Yeah.
I just don't think he's
a good spark plug.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. The way he plays, I would love him as like the 6. I would love him coming off the bench. But like again, the end of that game, they were just trying to run everything through Luka as they should. But you saw once